entrepreneur.
We've raised the block.
Learn firsthand from successful business owners and create your own path to success.
I'm going to show you how great I am.
It's time to hit the road to growth with team lead of the Enriquez Group, Realtor Vinny.
Hi, Road to Growth listeners. Today I have Stuart Leo. Leo, right? Stuart Leo?
That's correct. That's it. That's right.
Oh my goodness. I usually look at the names beforehand, the last name, but for some reason I didn't do it. See, it's Stuart and then Leo. Leo can be a first name too.
I'm a man of 2 first names and 2 last names. So, you know, the old trend of when you're really super successful, you just one name, Madonna, or something like that. You know, hey, I'm just 2 first names. I'm just upping the ante in the name stakes.
How often do people call you just Leo by your as a first name?
Every day, and that's okay, because in Australia, which you can clearly hear my Australian accent, in Australia, that's all we do. You know, we ditch first names, and if your last name say McDonald, then you're McDonald or Macca. You know, it's just a cultural thing here in Australia. So I'm
yeah,
cool
I mean, I get so my last name is Enriquez, and some people just call me Enrique, using it as a first name, and I never correct them. And I don't know if it's the right way of not correcting them, or I should be correcting them, but I guess I'll take your advice and just leave it alone and not say anything about it.
Hey, welcome to the club. Yeah. So it's good. Well, it's good to meet you. And hey, thanks for having me on the show.
No, I appreciate you. And so you're a man of many hats, consultant, entrepreneur. You started a business, Wayworker. Wait, did I say it right? Wayworker?
Waymaker.
Waymaker.
Mm.
Waymaker. And podcast host. So a variety of different hats. But thank you for being here. I mean, I've had a lot of coaches, consultants on this platform. And usually this is where I've been asking people, okay, what separates you from other coaches, other consultants? But it seems like you guys, and we're going to get to this story, had that kind of epiphany to figure out what actually separates you from other coaches and consultants.
Yeah, it's a story.
Platform.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, we're not a coaching or a consulting group anymore, but we serve the coaching and the consulting community. And we decided to go and blow up a perfectly good coaching and consulting business, and go and build a software product. And that was a massive mindset shift. And it came, well, we'll get to the story later, but it was spurred by a series of events that forced us to stand up and go, hang on a minute, who are we? And what difference do we want to make in the world, and how best can we do that? And so as we started to wrestle with that, we realized we needed to do the classic pivot.
Well, before we get to that journey, have you always kind of had a entrepreneur mindset? Like growing up, were you the one leading the charge, or who were you at a young age?
Yeah, I always joke, because my first job was coming home from school, jumping on my bike, and we lived in this kind of resort town in a place called Tasmania, and which is as close to Antarctica as anyone would ever want to get. It's right on the southern end of, so Australia's down under. This is down under, and so it's cold, it's little. You know, the whole population of this little island, Tasmania, is only about 400,000 people, which is like a suburb in a town or a city in America. And anyway, so my first job, I'd come home from school, jump on my bike, and there was a little golf course, and I'd go down to that golf course and I would fish the golf balls out of the lakes and the dams on this golf course. And I'd collect 10, 20, 30 golf balls, and I worked out that I could sell those back to the golfers, or back to the golf pro shop. And and you know what? It was a great little business. There was a market opening because it was an amateur golf course, so they were terrible at playing golf, which meant lots of golf balls went in the water. It was a average kind of course, so hey, it wasn't that well made, so golf balls went in the water. And nobody else was dumb enough or stupid enough in the bitter cold of Tasmania in the middle of winter to go and put their board shorts on and jump into the water, this murky, muddy water. But hey, for a 10, 11, 12-year-old who wanted to buy a brand new bike and could get 50 cents a golf ball, that was just money in the lake. And I just had to go and pick it up. And that was my first job. And, you know, it was really funny. It was really successful. I bought the latest, greatest, fantastic bike. And the pro shop said, hey, this 12-year-old and his brother are making way too much money out of our golf course. We're actually going to hire professional divers to go in and clean out the lakes. And we're like, oh, we've got some competition now. And they actually, as they did that, they refused to buy our golf balls back. And so they cut off our sales distribution and they undercut our competitive advantage. How's that? And as 12-year-olds, sorry,
were you allowed to go into their water areas?
Well, let's not go there. Let's maybe not. Perhaps back in the 1980s there were no such rules like that in Tasmania. Anyway, so my dad was like, "Come on, Stu. If they're not going to buy them, there's another golf course at the Casino Country Club across town. Let's go see if they want to buy them." And they were like, "Yeah, we'll buy them. 50 cents a ball. You just bring them in." And so every couple of weeks we'd go in with a big box of balls and walk out with $100. And, you know, as a 12-year-old, that was like Insta famous in today's world. We were cashed up kids on bikes and it was so much fun. So that was my first job. I've always loved entrepreneurial stuff. And ever since then, realizing that you could go out and do something and make some money and enjoy what you're doing and see opportunities, I think it's always been in my heart to go, hey, that's kind of cool. What are the opportunities out there? What problems can we solve?
So now you have this entrepreneurial mindset. I'm guessing you're in school. Did you go to university or what happened next?
Yeah, actually, I didn't really know what I wanted to do. And I ended up at the end of year 12 doing the classic thing that a lot of Australians do, where they pack a backpack and head off to Europe, go see the motherland, so to speak. And so I ended up on a plane going from a little town called Launceston, a town of 50, 60,000 people, and landing in London, a town of 25 million people. And then I spent a year working overseas. And when I came back, I ended up at university, studying business and commerce and marketing. Actually at school, that was in the late 90s, a mate and I, we built a little .com. And that was our first job out of university. We had no idea what we were doing. Again, you know, working on our parents' computers in the garage, kind of making something. And that actually sustained us for about a year or two. And we hit the first .com boom. I don't know if listeners will remember that, in about 2000, 2001. And it was at that point we thought, wow, we better go and get real jobs and figure out what this work thing is really all about. So I ended up in ad agencies, and from ad agencies into property. And I spent 10 years with one of Australia's largest real estate developers, developing large-scale communities, and we were selling thousands of homes a year and working on product development. And it was really interesting, and I loved that. And I really needed that, because that was kind of like that was getting a corporate education. You know, how does a corporate work? How do they structure? How do they think? What's good about it? What's bad about it? And by about 2010 or 11, and it was actually the GFC that prompted it, it was like, I think I'm going to wake up in 10 years not loving my life. And so I took that massive plunge to go and do something that was in strategic advisory and consulting, and went into that world. And ever since then, and to be honest, I had no idea what I was doing when I did that. You know, I left a highly paid corporate gig and went down to the department store and bought a MacBook, bought a domain, built a website, and went, here I am, let's go. And I look back on that now, and it was just insanity.
Was it strictly commission based?
The start of the consulting group, you know, it was just me, my wife, and we went out and we helped organizations understand who they were, why they were different, and how they could communicate that difference to the marketplace and align that difference with their internal teams. And that was really the beginning of the genesis of what we're doing today. And
when you started that company, or at least got the idea of starting the company, what basically made you jump, and how long did the process take from you getting that paycheck to going, you know what, me and my wife are going to take a dive and start our own thing?
Oh, wow. I reckon I thought about it for a good year or so. And because at the time, we were both, by worldly means, pretty successful. We were both in corporate gigs, earning hundreds of thousands of dollars a year, driving nice cars, living in a good house. We just had our first child, and I did not enjoy the work I was doing. It was the classic. I'm spending huge amounts of time in cars and planes and travel, and the type of organization I was in was a decentralized one across Australia. So I remember doing days where I'd do like 3 cities in one day. And I remember it was actually my wife said to me, hey, this last year, it must have been 2010 or 11. She said, of the last year, you've spent 256 nights away. And I was like, yeah, I think the staff at a particular hotel in Sydney probably know me better than my 1-year-old does. And I thought, oh, this isn't going to end well. There's something amiss here. And so there was some dissonance in life. What am I pursuing? And for me, I love family. I think you could build $1 billion business, and if you're left with no family, then you've failed. And so for me, that was big. And so I was like, okay, I don't know what the solution is, but I know what I'm in is not going to bring me that solution. I'm not going to be able to balance family and successful life in this world. Others can, and that's fine. Like, great, well done. You've mastered it. But for me, it wasn't working. And so that was actually the conversation I was having with my wife. How do we build family, but also build an amazing business? That was the vision. Those two things had to be equal. If anything, family had to come first. And so because we live in a part of Australia, which, so we're sort of south of one of the probably 3rd or 4th largest cities in Australia, very similar to maybe an area like California or Miami. It's a tourist town. In order to be in a corporate world, you've got to be on a plane. You've got to be traveling. This is pre-Zoom. This is, I think FaceTime was very early, but video conferencing on Skype still sucked. So it was all face-to-face still. And so it was like, we need to make our way somehow in this local town, in this local community, or we've got to move. And we don't want to move because family is important to us. And so that was kind of the first stake in the ground. We had elder parents. We knew they were going to pass over the next 5 or 10 years. We wanted to be around them. We just made a decision to go, we're going to stay here. We think we're meant to be here, and we're going to figure out a business that lets us be here. Which is a really dumb way to start a business, if I can really be honest, because you're not necessarily identifying the market opportunity. You're just basically saying, how do I make $1?
Where did you come up with the idea of being a consultant?
Well, I think when you've gone through a corporate career, you build a lot of skills. You build a lot of skills in people and leadership and structures and systems and skills. You understand how businesses are put together, how brands are put together. You have a lot of networks and relationships that are very valuable. And so there's a lot of businesses that want that. Most businesses fail, not because they don't have a good idea, but because they don't have the capacity to articulate that good idea and then build the skills and the systems to bring that idea to life. That's why most businesses fail. And so if we could help people do that, then we could help businesses do good things. And that was really the beginning of the journey. Okay,
so you and your wife building this business. Now, I've had a lot of people on here that sometimes they have issues with their partners when they're building a business. Sometimes it goes fantastic. And then I have other ones where it's husband and wife. How was that original starting the business with your significant other?
Yeah, that's great. She's actually not in the office right now, so I'm gonna. I have a really good view on this. I was really fortunate. I married up. Married a great woman, best friend, a lot smarter than me, and so when it came to working together, that definitely brought challenges. Um, um, and, uh, and I think you can't go into it thinking that, oh, this is just going to be fine, because one of the biggest challenges is it's hard to switch off. And so your life, your marriage, it becomes all about business and work, and that's a very destructive kind of space to be in. So we certainly encountered that. I was very much the ideas person, sales, marketing, strategy, business building. She was very much the finance, commerce. She's a lawyer and an accountant by background, so great business partner to have. So we worked really well together. We struggled to switch off, but one of the best things is every business goes through tough times. And I reckon I've witnessed so many good friends and other business people, and they've seen marriages and families fall apart because the individual goes through that tough time on their own, and and the partner doesn't, the husband or the wife doesn't kind of understand what's going on, and it's hard to communicate what's going on. And we just said from the outset, all right, we're transparent. We're in this together. You know everything. I know everything. When there's problems, we solve them together. We're not going to hide stuff. We're going to make sure that we can enjoy the good times together, and we can get through the bad times together. And I reckon that saved our marriage and saved our business, because I never had to go home going, oh man, I've got to tell my wife I've just failed. She already knew. So we were sitting down going, okay, here's a problem. How do we solve it? And it completely changed the tone of that relationship in that context. And many times saved our business, saved our marriage. I didn't think I'd be talking about this today.
In the low moments, right, when you're working through that and starting the business, how did it work out for both you to keep pushing through the bad moments? Because in those bad moments, sometimes it may be easy. Oh, I'm going to close the door, go back to the old job, go to that old work. Who was the driving force? Where was the big why of saying, hey, we have to keep pushing forward?
That's a really good question. And actually, the first time we really faced that, actually, we didn't really face it. But we were 18 months into our new business, our new coaching and consulting business, and actually, it was tough. The person, we'd actually had another person we were working with. That person decided to go and do something else. We had some early success in the first year, and then by midway through the second year, we were really struggling. And actually, at that point, my old work kind of picked up the phone and rang and said, "Hey, we've got this, great gig. Do you want to come back and do it?" And I took it, and I went back, and I was like, and I remember, I visibly remember at the time, I had to send out all these letters to clients saying I'm shutting down the consulting and they could no longer provide the service. I'm going back to corporate life, and so we did that, and within a year, I was like, this is the worst decision I've ever made. And I remember about 9 or 10 months after that, I remember sitting down with my CEO, and I'm like, yeah, I think you're going to kill me, or I'm going to kill you. This is, I have tasted what entrepreneurial life looks like outside of the corporation, and the corporation feels like prison compared to the ups and downs of entrepreneurial life. And so I left, and that was really interesting, because when I left that time, I left feeling somewhat like a failure, if I'm really honest. And because I jumped last time with a whole sense of vigor and excitement and gone out and done something. This time I was leaving going, what the hell? Like what just happened? It was a real kind of dysfunction moment. And so I didn't leave with purpose. I left with frustration, and which meant I didn't really know where I was going. And so my wife and I, we we said, all right, let's take kind of 3 to 6 months. We can do a few little gigs. We had some old clients ring up going, oh, here you're leaving, come back and do some work. I took a contract or two, and I just kind of slowed life right down for 3, 6, 9 months. And interestingly, that's been a bit of a trait of life. When the hard times happen, you've got to step back and slow down. And in that, we decided, no, let's reignite the consulting business. Let's do it in this way. Let's go on this path. Let's actually do it differently to last time. And so we rebuilt the business model and the business plan and went out and did it. It wasn't perfect. And one of the big lessons we learned in doing that is the business you start is never the business you run, because you always learn and adapt. And as you learn and adapt, you're tweaking the vision, the purpose, the market, the business model, how you're dealing with customers. And we found ourselves just saying that time and time again, going, hey, this business we're running, it's not the business we started, but that's okay. And so we did that. And look, that started a journey of never going back. It was kind of like that. The old story of, I think it was the Greeks or the Babylonians, they would go and launch an attack on another city. Oh, I love your puppy dog in the background. And, they would say to the army coming in on the boats, when we hit that beach, we are going to win. And we know we're going to win, because if we don't win, you're going to die, because we're going to burn the boats. And they'd burn the boats on the beach. I think it was the Spartans. I can't remember. And it was like, you're going to win. And so that second time, it was actually about burning the boats. We looked at each other and we went, never again. We're not going back. We're not going to go back to corporate life. And I'll tell you something funny just before you ask that next question. Yeah. We were 18 months, almost the same amount of time into the business the second time, the consulting practice. And one of my best clients sat me down and they're like, we're doing this and we're going there, and we want you to be a part of the team. Come join the executive team. But we don't want you to work as a supplier. We want you to join the team. And that would mean shutting down your business. And I didn't even need to go back and talk to my wife. And I knew what I was saying no to. And I just said, I looked the CEO in the eyeballs and I said, mate, I love what you're doing. I hope we can still work together in the future. But I know that I'm not going to be a great employee for you. But I'm going to be an amazing consultant and advisor. So that's a flat out no. I've done this before and I know where that leads. And I'm not that guy. And it was really helpful to have that sense of identity and purpose and strength to go, no, you could offer me $1 million right now, and it's not going to happen, because it's not me. And so with that, we'd burnt the boats, and actually they went on to become one of my best clients, and I still today work with some of those guys. And that's another story. But yeah, so it was a really interesting journey getting into that life. That was about 10 years ago now.
So the first time you jumped over to the consulting business, I'm guessing you guys had some money saved, correct?
Yeah, but not a lot. We had 20 or 30 grand we could fall on, and we had a house, and we still had mortgages. There was still the ability, we still had to find the money each month and make it work.
Now, the second time you did it, did you have the same amount of money saved or more money saved because you kind of knew what you were in store for?
The second time, definitely a bit more. We'd bought ourselves about a 6-month window, to figure our stuff out. But we still, by this stage, we just had our second child. We just moved house. We still had mortgages. The first child was just getting into school. We were getting into that real crunch time of life, going, stand up and be responsible. You've got to, it's not just about us, there was kids and school and future. And that brought a sense of urgency to getting things done.
Now you're building the business, you're starting to get success in that business. When did the epiphany that the business that you're building is not the business that's going to get you to the next level?
Yeah. That happened around 2018 to 2019. And that was that was a hell period, if I'm really honest. And what was quite ironic was that we built this consulting practice in strategy and identity and sales and marketing, and we'd actually lost our identity. We'd forgotten who we were, and over time, that just crept in over time, and that's so easy to happen. What was ironic was that that's what we consulted in. So, you go into an organization talking about clarity of purpose and vision and tweaking things and working on it. And then you go back into your own office and you're like, oh man, this sucks. Like, what's going on? It was such a bizarre world to be in. And your clients are doing amazing. And you're like the plumber with the leaky tap going, hang on, why does my business suck? Making money, there's millions of dollars coming through the business. But it's not right. And it really, really took a series of events to go, yeah, this configuration is not right. And we'd been building some products, and that journey from about 2010 to about 2018, 19 was massive in the transformation of economies. Digital just took over. And so doing what we did was very different in 2015, 16, 17. And we'd played around building some products. We'd developed a really interesting diagnostic tool. We had a great methodology called the 7 questions, which we'll talk about, which we started doing. And it was really, we hit that 2018, 19 and going, most of the work we're doing is not what we want to be doing. It's not why we started this business. It's not profitable. It's not enjoyable. It's causing headaches. Sometimes we're good. Sometimes we're not. And we're like, what are we going to do? And it was actually in about 2018, it was really 2019. I rang a friend of mine, a friend of the family's, and I said, you know what? I'm kind of done with this business A, the consulting business. I've got this idea for business B, this other business. I've still got 10 or 15 staff. How do I get out of this one and get into that one? And he came in and he talked with Lisa and I, and he was very, very good. And he said something which I absolutely hated because it's not what I wanted him to say. And he said, when you talk about business A, the business you're running right now, but you don't like, your whole face lights up and there's something in there. It's kind of like, that's you. When you talk about business B, it's just about the numbers, and you're just in it to get in it and get out. And he goes, I don't think you should do business B. He goes, you might have created some problems over here in business A, but there's something in there and you got to go find it and fix it. I was like, damn you. I wanted an easy out. And again, we had those conversations, my wife and I, with this guy, good advisor. And so we both sat there going, all right, it's a bit of a shit show right now. I hope I can say that.
Yeah, fine.
But let's sort it out. Where's the gold? Where's the mud? Let's get rid of the mud. Let's find the gold. Let's figure out the new thing to do. And it was really through that we started to piece together the gold in that business, which was around our diagnostic tool, the 7 questions, the advisory, the frameworks. And we stepped back and went, are we going to do that or are we going to build that? And what we actually decided to do was to go, well, hey, it's the 21st century. We're going to go build that. And we'd learned a lot of skills in digital development along the way. We didn't really know how to pivot to go from that professional services business to a digital business. But we started on that journey, and that was transformational. And I think there was a couple of big lessons out of that. And one of those lessons we'd learnt, 7-8 years earlier, and that was you got to burn the boats. And so we were looking at what we had, the business, the brand name, what we were doing, and we were like, we've got to burn it. We've got to take the good bits out of it, and we've got to build something else, and we've got to go win over in this marketplace, which means we've got to burn that. You can't do both. It's impossible. The professional services business model is entirely different to a digital business model. The two just don't coexist together. And if you try and make them coexist, you will kill both. And So we knew we've got to kill this one gently, take the gold out of it and rebuild it over here. And that was an interesting journey.
How do you kill a business gently?
Dear, it's you know, when I if you're entrepreneurial, you know, businesses are like babies. Like, you love them, you've built them, you've dreamt about the logos and the people and the systems, and you've stayed up late at night building websites and learning stuff. And so the very first thing you've got to do, and it was somebody else that just sat me down and nailed me on this. And he goes, Stu, your identity is not found in your business.
Hmm.
And until you get your identity out of your business and back into you, you're not going to be able to kill your business. And so you've got to be able to separate yourself. And that's really hard as entrepreneurs. You've actually got to go, no, my identity is not in this business. This business is just a vehicle. It's a LLC or a limited or a, you know, it's an entity. It's just a bit of paper, and it's stuff we do. It's like a farmer on a farm. The farm doesn't define the farmer defines the farm. And which means sometimes you replant different crops. And that was the shift. And when I could do that, which took some effort, I'm not going to lie, there was 7, 8, 9, 10 years of ego and pride and, you know, stuff in here built up through that business. That's who you were. You met people, hey, what do you do? I run this, you know, do this and that. And then you had to go, actually, I'm not doing that anymore. What are you doing? I'm not quite sure yet. I'll tell you when I figure it out. And that's hard.
I think, I mean, possibly not everyone can relate to exactly what you're talking about, but I think that they can relate to it in a sense. I mean, it's the same thing if you having a product and your friend saying, hey, I don't need your product right now. And some people take that and go, well, they don't need me, but it's not you that they don't need, it's the product they don't need. So we have to separate it. So I think anyone listening right now, if you've owned your own business, you probably know that feeling, yet this is even on a bigger scale because you're killing your product. So
I think that's, it's so true. And people want you to buy your product because it makes them feel good. And you just get so that was the big shift. Number one, you know, my identity is not found in my business. Okay. Now I can kill my business, because I'm not killing myself. And the reality was, in a bad business model and in a bad structure, you're killing yourself anyway. So you've either got to separate that and choose to kill the bad business model and build a better business model, or you'll kill yourself, and you'll bring people down with you. And that's a path you don't want to go down. And so I think, and so then the next thing was actually getting some good people around us going, all right, here's what we've got. And in fact, one of our key staff members came on the journey with us. He's now a founder and investor in the new business, which is fantastic. You know, we got some good people around us. We stepped back, kind of like what we did 7, 8, 9 years earlier. And we bought ourselves some time. And it just so happened that as we were making these decisions, 3 months later, this thing called COVID turned up. And you know, that brought complexity. And we wondered, gosh, what are we really doing? But we had started our consulting business on the back of the GFC. And so we had left high paying corporate jobs. People were like, you're insane. In the middle of the GFC. And we knew that bad times don't last forever, but actually bad times, they're good times to slow down. They're good times to actually step back. And, you know, I could tell you so many stories about businesses that have been started in recessions or depressions or out of wars or difficult times. And so we always knew that. And so as COVID was hitting, we were like, actually, this is a moment. This is going to be difficult. We don't know what's going to happen. You know, in Australia, we had pretty significant lockdowns and people couldn't go to work. We're only just coming out of that now. But the opportunity for us was actually to slow down after 10 years of insane business growth, to stop and to rebuild. And together, the 3 or 4 of us, we stopped, we rebuilt, we did some work through that. We still had some clients, and we were doing a bit of consulting. And as we were doing that, we were rebuilding. And that took 18 months.
Now, if you're talking rebuilding, growing, expanding, if we're talking, let's say in 5 years from now, where is Stuart going to be? Where's your company going to be?
Great. Our vision simply is to become the single source of truth, the preferred platform for strategic planning. And so we've built a strategy cloud, a product that other coaches and consultants can use that can rapidly diagnose an organization, surface the growth opportunities, translate that into a strategic program, and align that out using goals across a team. And we've digitized the frameworks and the formulas that we used that saw organizations grow and scale for 10 years. And so the very first diagnostic we ever wrote was back in 2012 or 13. And today it still has that underlying genesis from what we were doing back then. It's just faster, smarter, better, using better algorithms in the cloud, working so much better. And so, our vision is that there are thousands of organizations and their advisors using Waymaker to bring clarity, alignment, and high performance into their teams through the software and through the advisory from their coaches and consultants who are partners to our software platform in order to do that.
Is there any advice you would give? Because having this platform right here, you probably deal with a lot of consultants, a lot of coaches out there. If someone's listening right now and they're looking to grow their business or even get into the business, is there any advice or things that you maybe see that maybe consultants don't do correctly, I guess?
Yeah, absolutely. We really deal with kind of 3 types of consultants, or coaches or advisors, whatever term you want to use. The first type is, hey, I was that guy, just like you, Stu. I was that guy that was in a corporate life, thought I'm going to go out and now become a coach or a consultant. But I'm a couple of years in, 2 or 3 years in, and my little black book of contacts is starting to run out. My credibility because I've kind of sold off my old corporate life is waning, because that's now 3 or 4 years ago. And I'm kind of struggling. I'm not really making the money that I should be making. And I'm spending a lot of time trying to service clients. So I'm taking on anybody. And that type of coach or consultant hasn't narrowed in on their core niche, on the problem they solve, and they haven't built the skills and the systems around them to reduce time and increase value. And that kind of coach or consultant, we help. We shift them from earning less than 100K a year to earning 6-figure incomes by adopting clarity, alignment, and a focus on how to go out and get their customer and do it. The other type of coach or consultant is the one that actually went into coaching and consulting or advisory, but they've realized it's not really a business. And what I mean by that, you can build a business or you can build a practice. And a practice is when you're earning high levels of cash, but you can't sell it to somebody. It's not an asset. It's a cash flow engine. And you've got 2 choices then. One choice is to go, cool, I'm just going to be a cash flow engine, and I'm going to take the cash that I generate and I'm going to put it into assets, property, businesses, stocks, bonds, whatever you like. Most people fail to do that. They just spend the cash. Or they go, actually, I'm kind of that entrepreneurial person, but I've realized I haven't built a business. I've built a practice. I've just got high cash coming in, but it still relies on me. I can't get out of it. And that person, we help go from earning 6 figures to building $1 million business, because our software allows them with confidence to put teams in place that can go out and diagnose, plan, and deliver with consistency, with quality, and with system and scale. And that's what you need. And so those 2 types of coaches are the types of coaches we deal with mostly. And they're the ones that we help, and they're the ones that our software helps. I hope that kind of answered your question.
No, definitely. I think it does. I think there's, mean, probably a lot of people out there that have the nuggets that have gone down the path that can give advice, yet having that structure, that system in place is something that they, I think, sometimes lack in how to provide that information to those individuals. So yeah, no, I totally makes sense.
Yep. So I think and there are things that, I remember learning along the way that, if you're going to run a professional service business, if you're going to be a coach, then A, you want to earn well, but B, you want to buy time back. You want to be able to go and have breakfast with your wife, or go and see the kids play football, or take the long weekend, or have a holiday with the family. And the reason you leave corporate life is because corporate life kind of takes over and owns you. What you don't want to do is end up in a situation where your own business owns you and you're not making good money. That's kind of like, I've left a situation where one bad thing's happening and now I've just gone and made everything bad. And that's what happens so often. And so kind of my heart and vision is for those guys, because I was that guy. And it took people around me to go, hey, Steve, that's a dumb decision. You should never be the smartest person in the room. Get smarter people in the room. Let them do what they do. Just create the vehicle for them to do it in. And now you've got a business. And so I think, learning those things along the way have helped us be better people and be better business people. We're absolutely not perfect, but, when you step back and you think about, my job is to solve a problem and create value for somebody. When you can do that for your team members and your employees, then you can actually run a business. And so I have this vision that Waymaker can do that for other coaches and consultants. It can bring back their time whilst they can still earn.
If someone's listening right now and they want to hear more about Waymaker or hear more about your journey, what's the best platform for them to reach out or getting more information?
Perfect. Jump onto waymaker.io. Search for our podcast. Our podcast is called Leadership Talk. Talk as in TORQUE. How do you bring power and energy into your leadership? Jump onto Leadership Talk. Subscribe to that. Jump onto waymaker.io. Have a look at the platform. There's a 30-day free trial. Go to town. Diagnose your own business. Put yourself through it. I guarantee you will find in 15 to 20 minutes insights that will take a management consultant tens of thousands of dollars and 4 to 5 weeks to find. And if you follow the framework in the platform and do the business improvement that's required, you will find a way to make your vision a reality. That's why we do Waymaker.
Well, I appreciate you, Stuart, for being here. I think there's a lot of nuggets, I think, for anyone to take away. I think one of the big ones, I think you ended with that huge nugget right there, is you have to have the people surrounding you that are going to give you the honest truth. They're going to say, hey, what are you doing is shit. You need to reassess this and think it over. So if you're listening right now, you don't have that person around you that's willing to call you out on your BS. Yeah, you need to go out and go find that person as soon as possible. Thank you, Stuart, for being here. Everyone, please subscribe, please share, and go find Stuart. Bye, guys.
Hey, Vinny, pleasure. Yeah. Thank you so much for having me on the show. May your business do well, and huge shout out to you and the work you're doing. Awesome.
Appreciate it. Thank you, guys.